Okay, hi, good evening, people that is connected to this webinar. Sorry, it was happening something that I don't know that the communication was cut. Okay, we're going to start. My name is Joel Perez, and the title of this conference is "I'm already expert on premises database. What I must know to be expert in the cloud." In order to talk a little bit about me, um, I have been 17 years working with Oracle technology. I was awarded as OTN expert at the year 2003, as Oracle Ace at the year 2004, as Oracle Ace Director at the year 2012. In a general way, I have been doing consulting tags, conferences, and activities related to in over 50 countries around the world. I am Oracle Certified Master. I am official reviewer. I have been official reviewer of a couple of books, the OCM 11G Study Guide and Oracle Data Guard 11G Release to Administration. I was co-author of the book written in Chinese, Oracle Performance Optimization and Diagnostic Case Selection. Here you have the URL in case you want to look at a little bit more this book. And coming soon, some cloud database books that I am writing with some colleagues. Related to how I contribute for the Oracle community worldwide, I write technical articles for OTN Spanish, Portuguese, English. Up to now, I have been published more than 140 articles. I have been speaking at many global events like Oracle Technology Network, Latin America, EMEA, TCC, Oracle Code, and more. Actually, I am Senior Cloud Solution Architect in Oracle Consulting Company in China called Emotech. I'm from Venezuela. I live in Beijing, China. Now I'm presenting here from Beijing, China, and we are ready to start this session. Let's start. Francisco, can confirm to me across the WhatsApp we are fine? Okay, let's start. As we're going to remember the time of this conference. We're going to remember. I'm already expert in on-premises database. What I must know to be expert in the cloud. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Francisco. So basically, this conference is for DBAs that they are already experienced in on-premises databases and now they want to start in the cloud, or they want to be clear of what things they must know in order to be expert in the cloud. So basically, one of the more important things is all the skills that you have collected and developed on premises, you are going to use it on the cloud. But of course, with a different flavor, with a different procedural and everything. So the first that you have to be, in order to be expert in the cloud, is obviously be expert in on-premises and databases. You have to be clear about architecture, general administration, backup, tuning, high availability solutions, RAG, data guards, and others. Here you can see the slide in the center that in order to use our skills on on-premises and on cloud, we're going to have the same architecture, the same software, the same skills, okay? And that is totally right. But we have to know, we have to learn the differences of how to do tags between these two contexts. The second point that we have to get familiar or get familiarization is with the main service you are going to work when you're going to work in cloud. It's the database cloud service offering. Okay, We're going to read a little bit about the concept of database cloud services. Oracle Cloud provided several Oracle Cloud service deployment choices. These choices allow you to start at the cost and capability level suitable to use case and then gives you the flexibility to adapt as your requirements change over the time. So when we're going to create a service on the cloud, it's not so dated when we were working on-prem. When we were working on-prem, we went to our server. That server can be a simple server or perhaps an Exadata or something like that, and we create our database and that's it. But when we are going to work in cloud, we have to choose what kind of under what kind of service we're going to launch our database. There are several kinds like this that we can see at the screen. Oracle Database Cloud Service is the most common service. Oracle Database Cloud Service is bare metal in case you want to have your cloud solution directly in a real hardware, not in virtual machines. We have Oracle Database Exadata Cloud Service, Database Exadata Express Cloud Service, Oracle Database Schema Cloud Service, and each of them offers different capabilities. So, one of the first things that you have to be clear to understand what kind of resources, what kind of capabilities offer of database cloud service in order to choose in what kind of service you are going to launch, you're going to create your database. If you want more information about it, you can go to this link down below. Apart from get familiarization with the database cloud service offering, equal when you were starting with databases on-prem and you had to be familiar with the architecture and etc. You have to be familiar as well with all the levels, all the layers, all the models and etc. all related to cloud in order to understand in what position you are in all the cloud contexts. So if we talk about cloud layers, we have three main layers: core as a service, SaaS, PaaS, platform as a service, databases on the cloud. We are inside PaaS, and infrastructure as a service. If we talk cloud deployment models, we can have mainly this kind of clouds: public, private, hybrid. We have to know what are the implications, what are the important decisions in order to decide to launch our database in a private cloud or in a public cloud. What are the advantages, disadvantages, what are the convenient things for us. So now when the DBA is going to work in cloud, it's not just he has to know about RAG, about data guard, etc. He has now to know about cloud context, about cloud architecture. Okay. Now we're going to go to the third section of this presentation that is going to occupy around the 80% of this presentation. We're going to work knowing the main differences of administering databases on-prem and cloud. Because as I remember the title, what we're going to base is to know is to use our skill we acquire in on-premises databases but in cloud. So we're going to focus in order to describe what are the differences of doing things in cloud and on-prem. So we're going to talk with the first point. At the time when we're going to create a database, when we're going to create a database on-premise, okay, we just create a database of what is called a database instance, which is a set of memory managed database files, as you already know. So if we want to create a database on-prem, we just go to our server. We can use the database configuration assistant in graphical mode, or We can use the database configuration assistant in silent mode, or we can create our database with SQL Plus across the create database command. So those are the typical ways of how we can create our database on-prem. But when we're going to create a database on cloud, there is not a tool in order to create directly a database. Starting this point, we're going to start to talk about we're going to create a service or what is called a database deployment. What is a database deployment or what is a database service? It's a compute environment that provides a Linux virtual machine and not a pre-created database and some additional tools. So now a service is not composed just of a database. Francisco, confirm to me in WhatsApp that everything is good. Okay, we continue. So a database deployment is formally called as well the database as a service instance. So we're going to see what there is inside a service. Most of administration of our cloud environment is going to be across the web. What you are seeing now at the screen, okay, thanks Francisco. Now what you are seeing at the screen is the typical interface of the database deployment database cloud service. So we have a button in order to create a service. As you see, we don't have a button in order to create a database. We have a button in order to create a service. So you have to be related. You have to know, starting now, what is the concept of service in cloud. Basically, a service in cloud, it can be called a set of many resources that normally you were administering and creating and handling in a separated way on-prem. But now in cloud, all of this is going to be wrapped into a service. So when you request a database service, what you are going to get? We're going to get an allocation of compute resources. We have to choose how many CPUs, how many RAMs we're going to have in that virtual machine. We have to have allocation of storage. We can have local storage. We can have external storage in cloud. We're going to be provisioned of an operating system in Linux version. We're going to be provisioned, or we can create in the process a set of keys and privilege that we are going to use during the whole process of managing our database service. We're going to have inside the operating system an installation and a configuration of a database. We're going to have a configuration of backups where we can have local backups, we can have external backup. We can have the configuration of tools in order to administer all these resources. We can have as well, we will have as well the configuration of access related to ports, related to some part of security. So all those components, all those sections are going to be part of a service. So now, finally, when we create a service, we can see here a resume of everything we're going to get. Perhaps the resolution you have now in this presentation is not enough in order to see those little letters. But now there are some, I describe you that now in this screen there are some sections like subscription details. We have the detail of what service level we have chosen, the software release, the software edition, details about service details, details about if we have configured standby or not, all related to backup and recovery, all related to the database, etc. So all those characteristics, resources, and factors is now composed a database cloud service. At the end, when we want to see the feedback of what we have as a database service, One of the things that is more important for us is to know the name of the host name, the public IP in order to access this cloud node, the seed of the database that is inside, and some resources like the quantity of CPUs, memory, storage, and more. We have here a little bit more detail about these that I was talking: host name, public IP, seed, and etc. Okay, at the end, when we finish to create that service, we're going to have another called database cloud single instance service components. So this is a new architecture that you have to be clear starting now working in cloud. So we have here database deployment. The database deployment is connected to a database backup cloud service. The database backup cloud service is connected to one storage cloud. Internally, we have some containers in order to handle all of these. We have REST clients. We have a database console in order to handle several services. So, in a general way, what I wanted to express is, with this point, is that a database cloud service is not just a simple database. You have to know all the resources and all the things that are related to this kind of service in order to know how to handle all of this. Okay, now we're going to go to another point. When we are working on-prem and we are DBAs and we have to install some software to allow into my database, some packs, etc. Basically, there are three sections we have to care. First, we have to decide what is the software edition we're going to use. If we're going to use a standard, enterprise, express, we have to choose what Oracle solutions we're going to use, what is called formally options, like RAG, JetGuard, Oracle Golden Gate, what kind of packs we're going to use, partitioning, data masking, diagnostic, etc. But in clouds, in order to choose all of this, it's a little bit different. There is a section called Software Edition. At the Software Edition, we have just four possibilities: a Standard Edition, Enterprise Edition, Enterprise Edition, High Performance, Enterprise Edition, Extreme Performance. Each one of them is a composed of options, packs, and software edition. Okay. So normally, if you want a standard, and not so sophisticated database and not sophisticated option and packs, you can include a standard or enterprise. The difference in standard enterprise is the quantity of resources you can allocate to that kind of service. If you want to use that kind of option, that kind of path I was mentioning before, you have to go in order to use enterprise in high performance or enterprise in extreme performance. So if you want to use, for example, Oracle Data Guard, or you want to use RAG, etc., you have to use one of those two options. If you want to use data masking, if you want to use typical and popular packs like diagnostic and tuning, you have to use this. So now the choosing of software edition options and packs is a little bit more easy, but you have to know this kind of offer. Now we're going to talk about pricing. The concept of pricing in on-premises databases doesn't exist. Just you have your server and you can use the quantity of time you want. You can create the quantity of databases you want. You can allocate the storage. Basically, it's your own hardware. It's your own software. You don't have to pay more than the license and the cost of your hardware. But in cloud, obviously, it's different. The main conception of cloud is based as you go. So now the DBAs and architectures, they have to know about what are the pricing model of clouds. So the pricing model of clouds can be classify meter, not meter, etc. So if you want to know about more of this, you can go to that link on the screen. Okay, now we're going to go to the third section of this presentation that is going to be composed of little small details, small major differences of how do things in on-premises and cloud databases. So if you are an experienced database, all that I'm going to talk here, you are going to be familiar with that. So the first point we're going to talk is about the installation. When you are working on premises, everything you do is manual. You can install your database software, Oracle Database 11G or 12C. Of course, you can install 10G, 9i, etc. But in this case, we're talking about the releases that has still support, and you have to have a manual database creation. When you're working in cloud at the database deployment database, everything is automatic, as I was explaining across the creation of a database service. We're going to go to the second point. What kind of databases I can have in on-prem and in cloud if we are using Oracle Database 12c? Francisco, confirm to me by WhatsApp that everything is good. Okay, we continue. When we're working with Oracle Database 12c on premises, we can have no CDBs or we can have CDBs. But at the deployment database in cloud, we can have only CDBs, container databases. Why? Because most of the best techniques in order to, okay, thanks Francisco. Because most of modern and more sophisticated techniques in cloud in order to move databases, in order to upgrade databases and everything is related to user container database with pluggable database. So that's why we cannot create non-container databases in clouds. Here we have a typical screen of when we are working with the web interface, where we have to specify the database name and the pluggable, at least one pluggable database. So as you can see, it's mandatory to use container databases when we are working in cloud. So that is an important point that you have to be aware. We're going to go to a third point. Location for database files and backups. When you are working on premises, you can put your database files and backup in a manual way, in a distribution that you want. You can create inside your database, use 01, use 010. It's like you are free in order to design your storage layout. But in cloud, it's not in that way. When you are creating your services, this is done in an automatic way, and you can choose in some way, in a limited way, where you can put all your resources. Of course, that limited way is a good thing because you can be more organized about all your resources in cloud. So inside the cloud node, inside the virtual machine that is provided across the database deployment creation, you can have basically inside 4 mounts of point. You have several storage values. You have mainly 4 mounts of point: U01, U02, U03, U04. We're going to see just a little bit what is the content of each those mount points. At U01, we have the Oracle product software, the entire bits compute cloud storage volume. At U02, we have an Oracle database data storage, the entire data compute cloud storage volume. You have it there. At U03, you have your database backup storage, the entire flat compute cloud storage volume can be there. And at U04, you have your database Gridle logs, the entire Gridle compute cloud storage value. So now the internal distribution of that machine is a little bit more simple. Of course, we don't have to worry about internal storage replication, etc., because all this storage is has a replication inside that cloud inside that cloud data center and with other cloud data centers around the world. So now to handle all of this is even easier than before. Talking about another point, now the operating system user and group on-prem is the typical Oracle and uninstalled user and group. The database in cloud, we have an Oracle and OPC users and the typical uninstalled group. The OPC user is a new user that is going to be used for privilege tags. Related to the types of server connections on premises, we can have all types of connections, password, security shell, etc. For on cloud, for our database deployment database, we can use just security shell. So we have to remember that cloud, the security subject in cloud is a very critical subject. It's a very critical context. So starting the first connection to my cloud node, we have to do it in a secure way, and there is even no way to do it in a non-secure way. So we're going to go to another point, storage allocation. When we are talking on premises, we can have our storage allocation according to our according to our design, and everything is doing in a manual way, doing command, Unix command. When we are working in cloud, we have a graphical tool, the Oracle Database Cloud Service Console, and across that, we do our storage allocation. Here we can see a couple of examples. When we are configuring our database, here we have a section where we're going to have the total of data file storage based on this field called usable database storage. In that case, we're assigning 25 gigas, but apart from our database storage, the virtual machine needs additional space in order to launch the operating system and in order to launch other resources. So at the end, we're going to have in this case, an 88.5 gigabytes of storage. At the right side, we can have in this section a total of estimated monthly storage. We can choose this, and we can have local storage or we can have a cloud storage. Okay, so basically the storage is handled in cloud across the web console, and if we want later to add more storage, we have to go across the scaling options. Another point is the tablespace encryption. As I was mentioning you, security is one of the main flags we have to care in order to cloud. So in tablespace encryption in on-premises, we have we are not it's not mandatory to have a tablespace encryption. That depends on us. But in cloud, by default, we have a transparent encryption for user-defined tablespaces. This is done across the initialization parameter encrypt mutable spaces cloud only. The security stuff in cloud is a very critical and huge section. Okay, but in this conference, I have not included too much because really security is a very long conversation. It's a very long subject. perhaps in others webinars, or perhaps in some articles that I write for OT and English, you can have more details of this, or perhaps in some of the books that I am writing right now. We're going to analyze another point related to backups. When we're working on premise, we can have our manual scheduling backup across operating system commands, or across the typical backup command in using RMAN. When we're working in cloud, we have an API called backup_API, or we can do it as well across the console. So if we want to know more about how to work with this utility backup API, you can go to this link you can see here at the bottom of the page. Okay. So related to cloud, related to related to cloud, as you can see, we have here a section called backup and recovery configuration. So everything related to configuration must be done here. When we were working in cloud before, we were using everything manual, establishing some parameters in the RMAN catalog, etc. Now in cloud is different. It's done more across the graphical tool. So here we have some details about what we can choose. We can choose a backup destination, both cloud and storage, both cloud storage or local storage. We have to use a container. We have to be related to what is the concept of containers related to all related to backup and recovery. We have to use for that container a username and password. We have to choose the amount of storage monthly we're going to use, and more. Okay, related to, we're going to go to another point related to the files that they are going to be backup on-prem. Normally we backup the database file, the control files, and SP files. In cloud, we're going to backup those same files as well, where we can backup other kind of files that they are going to be specified in this path you are seeing here, /home, /oracle, /backup, in a file called database configuration.spec. And files related to the operating system that will be backup, we have to specify them in this file, operating system configuration.spec. Related to recovery, when we want to recover our database on-prem, we use the typical recover command. And when we want to do it in cloud, we can use as well RMAN recover. We don't have to forget that inside the operating system, this is a regular database as we have known this database before, but as well we have a new utility called database as a software clean client with the Ocean or reg. This is the database as a service clean is an utility that is used for many things in cloud. So if you want to know more about this utility, you can go to this link down below. Backup destination. Backup destination, when we are working on premises, we can have in single or cloud. When we're talking about single, is that we can have our backup in local disks, in tapes, etc. In all the traditional mediums we have used up to now. Or cloud, of course, across the backup cloud service. When we're working in cloud, we can have a dual option. We can have backup inside the local compute node storage, or we can have the backup outside in cloud using Oracle Storage Cloud Service Container. Francisco, confirm to me that everything is good, please. Okay, we continue. Well, this is a screen that you have seen before. Yes, those are the possible destination where we have when we are working with our database in cloud, but related to when we are creating the service. We have other options we can use as well in cloud. Okay, thanks, Francisco. Related to patch discovery, when we're working on premises, we can discover if our database need a patch, doing a researching by ourselves using Oracle support, or checking our database if we have already registered our database using Enterprise Manager Cloud Control. When we are using when we are in cloud, we can use the graphical tool. It's very easy to know if we need a patch or not. When we are seeing all the characteristics of our services, there is a section available in order to show us if we need a patch or not. In this, you can see that we are needing that one patch is available. We can click there, and across a very easy and smooth process, we can patch our database without no downloading without no downloading patches and doing it across a more easy process. Related to upgrades, when we're working on premise, we can upgrade our database manually using Secure Plus or using the famous database upgrade assistant. When we are working in cloud, there is no way in order to upgrade our database being in that same node. We have to create a new service, and we have to move our database using all the options we already know. Here in this presentation, I have not covered all the techniques we can use in order to move databases between on-prem to cloud or between cloud to cloud. But basically, when you research about it, you are going to see that the options in order to move the databases in this context are the same that we have used in cloud, in on-premises before. We're talking about you can move your databases using export, import, using RMAN, using secure loader, using cloning of pluggable databases, using the export, the moving of containers, etc. So related to another point, for access, when we are working on premises, we have an automatic configuration of all of this via the database configuration assistant. We can, when we are creating our database, automatically the Enterprise Manager Express, Enterprise Manager Cloud Control, and listener registration is configured related to the port access. When we're working in clouds, automatic configuration via predefined security rules to enable when it is required. So once we have created our service in cloud, all the ports by default, they are blocked. And according to our needs and according to our future configuration, we can enable them. So related to monitoring tools, on premises, typically we can use Enterprise Manager Express, Enterprise Managed Cloud Control, Secure Developer. On cloud, we can use those same three, as well one additional database as a software monitoring. So the interfaces of this, they are very friendly, very easy to use. The database as a software device monitor is very alike to Enterprise Manager Cloud Control or Enterprise Manager Express. Of course, it's not so complex as of those last that I have mentioned, but it's for free and you can access it from your database cloud console. Well, this has been all my presentation. I thought, okay, yes. Up to now has been past 13 minutes. I thought it was going to consume a little bit more. If you want to know more about Oracle cloud databases and you want to start with Oracle databases, you can go across these links you have here, cloudoracle.com database. If you can have the possibility to try this for free, and here you have the links. If you want to be aware of the most accurate and updated information about cloud, you can join the social medias. You can see here on the screen link oracle.cloud.oracle.com database. You can find a lot of amazing resources, including mainly the public library of all related to clouds. There is as well several ebooks for free here. They are amazing. They can help you a lot in order to understand the cloud architecture, the cloud context, and everything. I recommend as well a couple of Oracle University courses that they are new, that talks about Oracle Cloud. There is as well an online library that with an amazing videos related to everything related to Oracle Cloud. So there are as well a couple of books in the market that databases. So the quantity of resources in order to learn about Oracle Cloud is very huge. So you have just to put your hands on that. Okay, fine. Well, we have reached the moment when I want to know if you have some questions. I can answer them. Cisco confirmed to me that we are good at everything. That you are all people listen to me well. Now I am minimizing my presentation. Okay, okay, fine. Okay, so I have here. Yes. Okay. Let me see here. Here some questions I have here in the chat. In the chat. Okay. Wait a minute. I'm receiving some information here. Okay, got it, Francisco. Okay, I have got I have that here. Okay, wait a minute. Let me to read the questions and I'm going to answer the question. Okay, here of Hitesh that says where to choose backup type and detail configuration in Oracle Cloud. Okay, as you can see in the screens that I was showing, you can choose when you are creating your service, what is going to be the destination of your database, of your backups. But related to the backup type, if you want to do a backup full or etc., everything has to be done with the backup API utility, or you can do it as well directly with RMAN. So that's the answer for that. Basically, the backup type you cannot choose it across the graphical environment. Across the graphical environment, you can just choose the destination and kind of backup. How is going to be the configuration of your backup? But in order to take them type, what kind of backup type do you want to execute? You have to do it across the command line. Okay. I hope your question has been answered. Hitesh. In case you want to ask, clarify something like that, you can write to me in the chat. Okay. Thanks. I have another. I have another question of Katada. Let me to read. Okay, okay, fine. Okay, Katada. Related to the graphical interface in cloud. Okay, really, those graphical interface in cloud, they are so powerful. And being honestly, the options they have is in order to in order to create, in order to make more easy what it was a little bit more difficult or with a more hard job before. Okay, but basically as I was mentioning, the monitoring tools you have is Enterprise Manager Express, Enterprise Manager Cloud Control. Enterprise Manager Cloud Control works totally equal, okay? The only difference is that now you are going to work, you're going to monitor, and you're going to do tasks with a database that is in the cloud. But related to your interface, is totally equal. And moment line utilities and things that you had before on-prem, they work totally equal in cloud. Okay, just now in cloud you have additional utilities like the backup API or the database as a service clean utility. So basically everything you had before on-prem, you have in cloud. And additional to that, you have other resources, all other graphical resources and other command line resources. So basically, with all of this related to cloud, you are not going to be limited, or your tags, they are not going to no possibility to do something. So now you have everything you had you have on premise, and now you have more. I think I hope your question has been answered, my friend Katala. My friend Hitesh here. I want to know if there is any other person that has some questions. Okay, according to I don't see any. Okay, perfect, Katala. Okay, well, I hope this conference has worked in order that you can understand a little bit more about the concept of administering databases in the cloud, basically databases in the cloud. It's a very in my personal opinion, databases in cloud, they are very fun because, for example, in my case, that I have been working with databases in 17 years. Now, most of DBAs, we were like in a position that we knew almost everything related how to handle a database, how to administer a database. And now Oracle Cloud Databases is like it's not like to start again, but it's like to have the opportunity to learn how to play with those databases, but in a very different way. Now, for example, if we want to make a backup on the cloud, we have to take some considerations that before perhaps didn't exist, or for example, in order to administer databases on the cloud, um, we are forced in order to learn more about security, in order to understand about how to secure our database. That's mean that before, when we were working on prem, the security issue was for most of companies were like an optional thing. But now in cloud, it's not an optional thing. It's an issue that you have to do. So everything start we're going to connect. You have to use a private and a public key inside your database. You're going to have your table spaces in an encrypted way. And if you want even to protect more your database, you have to look for, in order to use some options like a database vault, audit vault, etc. So in a general way, databases on the cloud is something very fun, very amazing. And well, and about all of this, well, guys, I remember you my name, Joel Perez. I am Marketplace Director. I have other 2 additional conferences about cloud. You can, if you type my name, Joel Perez Oracle, you can find a lot of articles that has been written by me and some colleagues in OTN English, OTN Spanish, OTN Portuguese, and I hope this conference has been very informative and useful for you. Thank you very much for attending this conference. Good evening. Bye.